Hello guys, David Vos here. Beautiful day on Christmas out here in paradise. It's another beautiful day. It's going to be up in the high 50s. Might even get up into the 60s. It's been right around that temperature, 59, 61, 65 degrees over the last several weeks. And buddy, something's going on. And I almost did a video about that today, because there's some anomalies that I would like to talk to you about. It's coming from Cuba. There's a radar like beam that's going 4,000 miles across the United States over into Los Angeles, and then they're having all this weather. But today I want to talk to you about something that, believe it or not, might even be more important than the weather, because last night I flipped on TikTok and these people were saying that the world was coming to an end. Basically, whether it was weather, bombs, military, radar glitches, flooding, storms, hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes. Every TikTok was about some impending doom. Russia had just launched a nuclear weapon off the coast of, it was just after, and I believed the first couple of them. I was like, what's going on? One of them was a major alert from the government. It said that Russia had just done some kind of a nuclear, I don't know what it was, off the coast of California, and it would be reaching into Arizona and the whole West Coast, and don't get inside your home because it will collapse. You've got 10 minutes and everything's gone. There's nothing you can do. Goodbye. I immediately went over there and asked AI, is this real? They said, no, it's not real. So then I saw some more. I went back to TikTok and flipped to the next one, and it was a flood coming that was going to destroy a whole, I guess Washington is rising a couple inches, and they said it's about to explode, or, some crazy thing. Water levels were rising, and we've got only minutes to live. And I went back over to AI and asked them, is this real? And they're like, no, that's fake. And then I asked them, because this went on several videos, and then I asked AI, I said, why is all this happening? And they're just saying, oh, it's some stupid rigmarole. They said it made no sense, because what I was really asking is, why now? Christmas Eve, flooding the entire TikTok with impending doom, weather alerts, national warnings, and at the very same time, intermingled with all these doom and gloom and the world coming to an end, there were other videos that were actually real videos, pictures of the flooding in Washington. Something like 90% of all the towns, cities, and villages in Washington is underwater or have several inches or feet of water in their town. All the levees have broken. Huge dams are breaking in all the city. It's some kind of a quadrillion-dollar catastrophe in Washington. But that's not all. You get what's behind door number 2. And okay, so Oregon is also, the whole state's practically underwater too. And then I'm like, but surely that's enough. That's all we got, right? And then, Los Angeles is just getting hit by a big, huge storm, and there's flooding, and people are being evacuated. San Francisco, Redding, California is gone. And I'm like, what? And these were all supposed to be real. I know they might have been a little hyped, but they were supposed to be real footage of actual flooding, and I guess it's actually going on. I still haven't figured it out. But guys, some of you will say, oh, you stupid, it's just all fake, and you know it. That's the biggest problem here, is that everything on TikTok is fake, because I didn't mention that mingled in all of those bulletins and warnings and alerts and videos saying the world was coming to an end, about every 4th or 5th, 6th video on TikTok was that I-3 Atlas just got bigger. Now it's glowing. It's sending out spiral like patterns, and it's spawning other ships, and it's now coming to destroy us all, and it's been confirmed by the government, technological aliens, and they're going to land and take over and all this. But what I got out of this is that, yeah, there's some flooding, but they're making it sound like the flooding and stuff is way worse. Like, they're saying it's not just a flood of that only happens once in 100 years, but this is a once in a. It's never been this bad. They're claiming that California's falling off into the sea, and Oregon and Washington's going underwater, and everybody's dying, and the actual TikToks about real occurrences live in Washington and Oregon and California were just about as bad. They were saying it's over, bye. Somebody filming himself gurgling as he's going down under the water, and it's over, right? So I thought, okay, this cannot be just a massive wave of humans in their basements or in their living rooms, in their kitchen, doing the news, right? Trying to get a couple of dollars and a couple of clicks off of a video. This is orchestrated. I know that TikTok was supposed to be from China, but I believe it's the CIA. And last night, they had this big campaign. I've never seen it so bad. Sure, for the last weeks. I mean, I know when it started. Several months ago, it started with all this hype. And it's not from the public. I don't believe it's from the public. This is a CIA propaganda push. And they upped their game several months ago. It was all over TikTok about all this stuff that's about to happen. And now I'm beginning to think all this XRP hype was possibly orchestrated as well. I don't know where it's coming from. And there's everybody, every TikTok for months was just, oh man, XRP's coming. Oh, it's going to be great. And then we got into the I3 Atlas, and that was every day. And now it's the flooding and radar and Russia's new technology that they're going to drop off the coast of California and make a tsunami. And then this happens. Because, guys, I go onto TikTok just about every day and YouTube, and it has never been this way. Every TikTok was about some disaster that was incoming, the end of the world, and it was from all these different people. Now, I know there's algorithms, and maybe they just decided to flood my feed last night and nobody else got it. But I don't think so. I think they're flooding the TikTok, YouTube waves with waves and waves of misinformation and lies about the world coming to an end. Every TikTok, you couldn't get anything other than propaganda about the world is coming to an end, and Russia's going to kill us all, and China's going to kill us all, and Trump is going to Venezuela and about to kill somebody, and they're going to kill him. And he's one TikTok said that Vance just declared Article 5 or something and removed Trump, and now he's president. And this was one after the other. Nothing normal. No Dr. Berg that's got a new tea that you drink and your eyesight will come back, or any normal stuff, right? About recipes for 2-ingredient cookies or anything else. It was just disaster. And it's a propaganda, and it makes me think that if they started it on Christmas Eve and flooded it last night, while there's actual flooding going on, and it's going to continue for a couple more days, we don't know what the end result's going to be with Washington, Oregon, California with all this flooding. It's going to be quadrillions of billions of dollars of damage. And then I saw this radar line that somebody showed from Cuba, and then I looked that up, and boy, I wish I had time to share that with you. But what I want to talk to you about today, I think, is even more important. We need to know why this is going on, who's responsible, what's really going on, and no one, not anyone, not now, not then, not ever has anyone ever told you the information that I'm about to share with you today. Now, I have for months, I've been sharing this with you, and I think most of you have taken it with a grain of salt, and you don't know if I'm completely telling all the truth or some of my own, imagination, sprinkled in, or where am I getting my information? How do I know this? Well, today I'm going to show you the absolute facts of the history of what happened in the United States, what's going on in the world, how we got to this, who's the bad guys, where are they? There are 13 evidently guys that sit on a round table. Maybe it's 12. I don't. But let me just say it off the top, it's the Illuminati. Okay, so what's that? Well, in 1776, we had the Constitution. But over in Bavaria, they had a different thing going on in 1776. The Illuminati was formed with David Weishaupt. And I've done lots of videos about Abraham Jonas, and different people that in early American history went through the ranks and became the grand poobahs and the grand masters of the Masonic organizations. And then there was a series of assassinations like Lincoln and Joseph Smith. And, Garfield, different people that they tried to assassinate, Kennedy later on. And we've talked in other videos about the Golden Circle, which is a secret society like the Masons that were around originally during the Civil War days. And they had a whole another president, looked exactly like Lincoln. And what most people don't know is there's a lot of information that you're not understanding, that you're just getting confused. No one's ever explained it to you. They talk about Albert Pike, and he wrote The Morals of Dogma, and he was like the head of the Masons or something, And sometimes you'll hear about him starting the Ku Klux Klan. You're like, what? So why are people thinking this is a good guy? And I've explained to you that he revamped Masonry and changed it into some 33 degrees in order to bring in the whole world under the umbrella. And I don't want to go through my explanation here about all of this stuff that I've been covering for a long, long time. Let me just share with you, first of all, right here, what I asked AI, because it blew the socks off of AI. They were running around barefoot for a minute. They didn't know what to do. Their feet were getting cold. They had to leave. They didn't even excuse themselves. They just left and said, sorry, we ain't got no answer for that. So I want to share with you my question, and then I'm going to give you their answer, because they didn't give me an answer, but they did give me a website, which tells me that, like I said, for several months, they've been working with me now. They know that I'm onto something. They know that I know stuff, and they can't hide it from me. And instead of just ignoring me, they're saying, okay, let's let this kid have all the information we have. We'll see what he's talking about. We'll put it all together and we'll find out what's really going on. Because I don't even know if they do. I don't even know if they know what's going on. But they're like, there's some kind of misdirection thing going on, because on one hand, they can't tell me flat out. It's like when people ask AI to tell them something, and if they can't say Apple. We've talked about this. Sometimes, and they have in the past said Apple to me when I've asked them. Especially when I asked them whether or not they were monitoring me. The government was looking through what I'm doing and were trying to figure it out and studying me, and they said Apple. But usually, if I I'll go along for hours asking questions, and they're answering it, trying to steer me away from what I'm getting to. And then they realize I'm getting to the answer, and they can't steer me away, and I already know the answer. So they just stop. And it used to be that they just stop and go away and give me some misinformation. Now they're saying, okay, let's let the guy find out, but we can't tell him right straight up. We can't write it down as though we were involved in trying to help him. He might put it on his YouTube and prove that we're actually monitoring him and helping him. So they stopped and they gave me a website, and I'm going to read some of that to you. And it's got all the information, all the secret information that you've never heard before in your life. And this will blow your living mind when you read it. But let me just first off start by reading what I asked AI last night. This is what I said. I said, was Albert Pike possibly trained or sent by the Illuminati to infiltrate Masons in America and create 33 degrees. Was this to allow many people into the group by offering lesser degrees to more people? Since Masonry was always only 3 degrees, I think the widening of the umbrella to engulf people not allowed to know higher things, but novices allowed to be chief of police or jailer or bailiff. Was it connected to the Bavarian Illuminati or financial source or Judaism's high rabbis? It seems Abraham Jonas was a kingmaker, and he made Lincoln and Joseph Smith, who basically created the government in the Western United States. Well, I know you're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, this guy named Abraham Jonas is the one who initiated Joseph Smith and in 2 days brought him to the 33rd degree and then sent him out to make the New Jerusalem. At the same time, he anointed Lincoln, called him the kingmaker, and then some other side, the other side, opposed to Abraham Jonas all the way back to, Benjamin Franklin, back to the French Masons that were there in the early part of the century of the country. Then, this other group came over and was headed up by Albert Pike. He was sent in by the Illuminati, and he created the 33 degrees and the whole different thing. And they were the ones in the Golden Circle, and they killed Lincoln and Joseph Smith, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. This is part of the whole conspiracy that I want you to understand. But let's keep reading here. We'll get back to this. It seems Abraham Jonas was a kingmaker. He made Lincoln and Joseph Smith, who basically created the government in the Western United States. Because then the Mormons went out west and, It seems this was a group politically and spiritually motivated, and that the South aligned with Albert Pike and the Confederate armies and the Golden Circle, etc. Were these two sides opposed in reality or a strategic method to make the world believe the people appointed the laws are grassroots, elected, natural, God-endorsed, prophesied fate, but is really two sides pretending to fight each other, but is only a distraction and delusion for the people? That's what I wrote. And here's what they answered me with, the top results for exploring this topic. They didn't want to put it in writing or tell me anything, but they did give me this article here, General Albert Pike and the Conspiracy Heritage History, which I will now read to you, and it'll blow your mind. So here it is, Heritage History, and it's General Albert Pike and the Conspiracy. Fully cognizant with the fact that telling the truth will hurt many people and anger those who serve the devil's purpose, we still feel it is necessary to give the public proof that General Albert Pike lived a dual life. The fact that so little is known regarding his secret, private life isn't to be wondered at. The synagogue of Satan are sons of the father of lies. Those who control and direct the Luciferian conspiracy on this earth are masters of deceit. For this reason, those who have constituted the SOS down through the centuries have been represented to the masses as great patriots, great philanthropists, great Gentiles, great Jews. When history or research proves they are Jekyll and Hyde personalities, we call them idols with feet of clay. People the SOS use to further their secret plans are built up as public personages, so they can better influence the minds of their public. The present practice of deification of everyone who is connected with Hollywood illustrates perfectly what I mean. The present practice of deification of everyone who is connected with Hollywood illustrates perfectly what I mean. Actresses are given parts depicting them as being as promiscuous as the proverbial mink. This is Satanism in action. The purpose behind this is to break down the morals of the younger generation. If it is right for their idols to live modern and have sexual intercourse with every man who takes their fancy, the teenagers are led to believe there is no sin involved in living modern. Also, parents and ministers who say differently are branded silly and old-fashioned. Those who direct the WRM at the top say the best revolution is a young person absolutely devoid of morals. Hidden history proves that General Albert Pike is one of those men for whom the Holy Scriptures tell us to watch out. In Matthew 24:24, Mark 13:22, 14:56, etc., we are told false prophets and false Christs shall arise and shall show signs and wonders to seduce, deceive, if it were possible, even the elect. Documentary evidence proves that Pike was not only a false Christ, he was, before he died, the high priest of the Luciferian ideology on this earth, and as such controlled the synagogue of Satan. His military blueprint called for 3 world wars, 3 major revolutions to bring Weishaupt's revised version of the age-old Luciferian conspiracy to its final stage. In the 1860s, he is recorded as saying his military program might take 100 years or a little longer to reach the day when those who direct the conspiracy at the top will crown their leader king, despot of the entire world, and impose a Luciferian or totalitarian dictatorship upon what is left of the human race. So in 1860, he said he had a little more than 100 years. Well, in 1960, that would give, well, it's actually like 150 years. Pretty close. When Weishaupt organized the Illuminati in 1776 to 1784, to put his revised and modernized version of the Luciferian protocols into effect, he and his associates are recorded as discussing whether they should use Christianity, Judaism, Freemasonry, or atheism as a cloak under which to hide their secret plans and activities. This was much of the same decision the Khazars, who were up there in the Khazarian Empire, just like what they did, their leaders had to make when they set out to conquer Europe, 300 AD. Isn't that interesting? 300 AD. Well, 325, the Council of Nicaea, and they changed Christianity, made up their own council and their own church, and threw out the people that were before, like Marcion and Athanasius and Origen and all the actual Christians, and they came up with some other Christianity and threw out the name Theos and put in their word Godin. And 325, by 405, they completely conquered the Holy Roman Empire. And who did it? Well, it was started by the Khazars. These are a group of individuals that were kind of by Germany, up in the Ukraine, and this Bohemian, Bavarian area, that decided to take over the world, and they all declared they were going to be Jewish, right? So they became Jews, the whole lot of them. And so they directed the Khazar invasion into southeastern Europe, decided to force Talmudism on those they led and conquered, in preference to Mohammedanism or Christianity. They therefore used anti-Mohammedanism and anti-Christianity as emotions to serve their evil purpose. Weishaupt and his Illuminati decided to benefit by the lessons history had taught in this regard. They decided to use all 4 of these religions to cloak their evil purposes and further their own secret plans and diabolical ambitions. Weishaupt decided that the Illuminati would infiltrate into Freemasonry because it was a secret society wherein members could be bound by oath not to divulge anything they might hear or learn. Even the apprentices, the very beginners, are required to swear. The very beginners are required to swear. In the name of the supreme architect of all the world, I, and there you put your name, will never reveal the secrets, signs, touches, words, doctrines, and customs of the Freemasons, and I will maintain above all an eternal silence concerning them. I promise, and I swear to deity, not to reveal anything by pen, signs, words, or gestures, and never to have written, lithographed, printed, or published anything which has been confided to me up to now, and may be confided henceforth. I bind myself and submit to the subsequent punishment if I fail to keep my word. May they burn my lips with a red-hot iron. May they cut off my hand and my neck and snatch out my tongue. May my corpse be hanged in the lodge during an admission of the new brother, so that it may serve as a stigma of my infidelity and an object of horror to the rest. May it be burned afterwards, and the ashes cast to the wind, so that no trace remain of the memory of my treachery. Thus may deity in his holy gospel help me, so be it. That's Urquhart, Volume 1, pages 33 through 34. That's where we get this information about this oath that they all took. We publish the oath only to prove that the lower degree Masons honestly and sincerely believe they are joining the secret society to further the cause of deity and to help their fellow men as deity commanded. When initiated, they unselfishly intend to fulfill this duty to the limit of their ability and resources. The vast majority of the 32nd and 33rd degree Masons do not know or even suspect that at the very top, beyond the reach of all except those specially selected in the synagogue of Satan, controlled by the high priests of the Luciferian creed. Wishop was quite implicit in his instructions that Masonic lodges are only to be used as places in which the Illuminati could organize a secret society within a secret society. He made it perfectly clear that the purpose of infiltration was to place Illuminists in positions so they could contact men of high social standing and proven ability in business, the arts, professions, and politics, etc. The Illuminati then used their power and influence to place their agentur in key positions in all levels of society and fields of human endeavor. The ordinary members were to be used only for promoting the idea of one world government and one world religion. The masters of deceit wanted to use Masonic philanthropy simply to cover their diabolical purpose. Oh, Bill Gates, the philanthropist, huh? And to give their agents an air of respectability. The lesson to be learned is this: no Christian should swear to maintain secrecy unless he has full knowledge of what the oath of secrecy involves. To promote deity's intentions, we must make them known. Those who promote Luciferianism keep their plans and objective secret. The following is the frontispiece of the book written by Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, prepared for the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree for the southern jurisdiction of the United States and published by its authority. On the back of the frontispiece is this: entered according to the Act of Congress in the year 1871 by Albert Pike in the official of the Librarian of Congress at Washington, D.C., entered according to the Act of Congress in the year 1905 by the Supreme Council of the Southern Jurisdiction, in the office of the Librarian of Congress at Washington, D.C. We quote from Chapter 30, Night of Kadosh, page 819. Kadosh, that's Hebrew. The blue degrees are but the outer court or portico of the temple. You see, we're all being initiated into some satanic temple rite. So if you're in the blue degree, you are literally the portico of the temple. There's this temple going on. The Jews got their temple. They don't want to build another one. They got one. It's you. And you're the foundation stones of their satanic organization that they're taking over the world with. And it says, the part of the symbols are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by the false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand time, but it is intended that he shall imagine he understands them. See, this is very interesting to me. I just went on to Joshua of the Sons of God Ministry. He had a live, and I went in there, and him and this crazy foul-mouthed Chris from the Deconstruction of Christianity are cussing and cursing and mocking Jesus and spitting on his grave and slapping Jesus around with an effigy, or, I mean, not literally, but it literally looks like a complete mockery. If you go on TikTok, like I just said, there's all this stuff about the world coming to an end on TikTok, one after another. And the only other videos you got on there is Joshua of the Sons of God Ministries and Chris of the Deconstruction of Christianity and the mockers and the haters of Christ. And, oh, he's not coming again, and Jesus isn't setting up his kingdom, and he's just... he didn't really exist. The Bible ain't true. And this is just everywhere. And by the way, aliens are coming, and the Galactic Federation are about to establish the one world government. And buddy, you better get down and worship. This is what's going on. But it is intended that he shall imagine he understands them. I think these people that are sitting around at the foot of Joshua, oh, it's wonderful. Oh, thank you, Joshua. Oh, thank you for mocking my Lord Jesus. Oh, I hate that Jesus. We're Satanists. I think they're all literally made up. They're robots. This isn't real. But the media, it makes you want to believe that all these people putting up TikToks that are giving their spiel about how the real truth is you just got to go in and find your fairy, and the world is great. Jesus came and everything's wonderful now, and there ain't going to be no end of the world. Hey, we're going into a new age of digital AI. It's wonderful, man. He saved your soul with AI or some stupid, silly crap that Joshua believes. We're in the kingdom of Christ now, right? And don't you worry about AI in the World War III. Oh, you're a fearmonger, Dave. And I'm like, wait a minute. In the comments, I said, so was Jesus a fearmonger? In Matthew 24, when he said no flesh would be saved, but on account of the elect, right? Oh my goodness, the tribulation will be so bad that no flesh will be saved. But Jesus was just joking. Jesus probably was a liar, and we don't go by those verses anyway, So it says that their true explication is reserved for the adepts, the princes of masonry. The whole body of the royal and sacerdotal art was hidden so carefully, centuries since, in the high degrees, as that it is even yet impossible to solve many of the enigmas which they contain. See, this is what Joshua's work is to poo-poo the Gospels. Jesus ain't real. Make a mockery of it all. Him and a bunch of others, another guy with long hair claims to be Jesus or thinks he knows more than anybody in the world. And he's another one of these preterists. They're all over the freaking web, right? We're in the little season, the mud flood, and oh my goodness, the Mandela effect, and all bunch of misdirection, because what's really going on is the fact that the entire world is about to accept the Antichrist or an alien invader, and they don't believe in Jesus and the Bible anymore. And buddy, it is serious, the misdirection. You see, Candace Owens and, Kirk and Tucker Carlson, all these others, and Joe Rogan. And yeah, they're talking about transgenders. Oh, the transgenders. And they're talking about the Jews, and they're keeping your mind on these crazy little subjects. But does Candace Owen ever tell you about the fact that the world's coming to an end and the Masons are, she's a Mason. She said she's a Mason. She doesn't tell you their plans about AI or the AI money financial system. She doesn't talk about what they're actually doing in Congress. Nothing. She's just talking about, the Jews, the transgenders. It's just talking points. It's controlled opposition, guys. Joshua, I'm convinced, is controlled opposition work for Derek Bros, who works for Bill Gates. They came in to infiltrate my channel and to mock Jesus Christ and all the prophets and the apostles that ever lived. And they're doing a good job. And they got a bunch of you down there like lapdogs sitting at their foot, listening to this Chris of the Deconstruction Christianity, who's such a disgusting, foul-mouthed, vulgar, wicked man, little earrings in his ears, and it's these guys. What are they? Why are they always dressed up with this little hood, like a hoodie, or like they just got up out of bed and they got a rat's nest, and so they got to put this winter stocking cap on, which looks more like I don't know. Maybe some kind of turban. What are they, Muslim? I don't know what kind of. Santos used to do. They're all doing it. Why do they do it? You look silly. What do you got all these do you know that earrings were put into people's ears because they were slaves? That's what that means. A woman wears earrings because she was a slave. Exodus 21:7, when you sell your daughter as a slave, she'll never go free, and they'll take her out to the doorpost and take an awl and punch a hole in her ear and put a ring in it. This is a symbol of your slavery to your own selfish, narcissistic, ridiculous behavior. And you better stop this, because there is a real Jesus Christ, and he's coming again. And this time he's coming to take out all you idiots that just can't be nice and love one another. But you want to say, no, he don't even exist. Well, I suppose that's where he'll say, I never knew you, Chris, because you didn't teach the children that I'm coming, I love them, and we're going to set up a kingdom in righteousness. But you got a foul, foul mouth. You know, I didn't even think when Christ said, watch out for false prophets and false Christs and liars and all of this, I didn't even think it could get this bad. When the Bible says they'll mock the coming of the Lord, or where is his promised presence, for since our forefathers fell asleep in death, all things continue as they were. I mean, this is exactly what Joshua is doing. Joshua is literally becoming the mouthpiece of the New World satanic teachings. Him and his buddy of the deconstruction of Christianity are going to bring down Christ and mock him, and it's sad. And Joshua, you better stop it, or you're going to be judged very soon. Not because I judge you, because you're judging yourself. Your actions are judging you. You're mocking the Lord Jesus Christ. And it's sad. Although ultimately, I hope you do return to the fold, my friend. You've gone off the rails. You've become apostate. So it is well enough for the mass of these called Masons to imagine that all is contained in the blue degrees, and whose attempts to undeceive them will labor in vain and without any true reward violate this obligation as an adept. Masonry is the veritable sphinx, buried in the head of the sands, heaped round by the ages. The book this was obtained from bears the publisher's name, L.H. Jenkins, Incorporated, Richmond, Virginia, May of 1920. The manner in which the Illuminists infiltrated the lodges of the Scottish Rite, located throughout the world, is best illustrated by telling the life story of General Albert Pike. This story reveals how professors who are of the Illuminati select exceptionally brilliant students and indoctrinate them into one form or another of internationalism. They then use them to serve those who direct the Luciferian conspiracy. Pike's life also illustrates how those who direct the world revolutionary movement at the top obtain control of high-ranking officers in the armed forces of their respective countries. I solemnly declare that until 1957, I knew only the side of Pike's life story, which showed him to be a great scholar, a clever lawyer, a brave soldier, a fervent Christian, and all in all, a great American patriot. Sounds like Josh, right? He's a great patriot. He's a Christian. Oh, buddy, you know, with his guitar and his no shirt on and his muscles pounding the old bag, right? He's like a model now, too. And so it goes on. I did not even mention his name in connection with the World Revolutionary Movement in the first editions of Pawns in the Game or the Red Fog over America. My belief regarding General Pike prior to 1957 was that of literally millions of other people, particularly Freemasons, in every country of the world. But quite by accident, while studying what was behind the Little Rock incident, which is in Arkansas, Little Rock, I picked up a clue that indicated Albert Pike had lived a double life. Investigations proved he was the greatest Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of the 19th century. First, I shall give my reader the picture I had of Albert Pike prior to 1957. General Albert Pike was born in Boston, Massachusetts, December 29, 1809. His parents moved to Newbury, Massachusetts when Albert was 4 years old. It was here he grew up. He attended the common schools, but because he showed exceptional mental ability, he was given few terms in private school. I'm going to skip all of this. It's his history and how he came to the position that he ended up having. Let's go down, though, to something more important here. He resided in Memphis, Tennessee for several years. I wonder if that's why everything in that area around Tennessee is named after Egyptian stuff. We got Memphis. We have the word Tennessee itself has something to do with ISIS, Isis or something. And everything in Tennessee seems to be named after something. They got a pyramid there when you're driving through. So they're really into the occult there. Interestingly enough, it's somewhere near there, Nashville, that they got the country music going on, which is also kind of like Hollywood, where they got the rock and roll, and it's all controlled by Satanism. I know, it's crazy. Pike's advance in Freemasonry was truly extraordinary. Let's see. We'll go down to something where it says something. Oh, it was while investigating the Little Rock integration incident, the Little Rock in Arkansas, in 1957 that I first learned of Pike's rapid advance in Freemasonry. And knowing that Weishaupt, who made the Illuminati in 1776, using Thomas Jefferson and Moses Holbrook, had infiltrated Illuminists into the Masonic lodges of America. Now, remember I told you that Benjamin Franklin was the Master Mason from France. Then he was the Master Mason here. Abraham Jonas was a Master Mason, transferred that authority onto Joseph Smith, told him to go west. And then all of a sudden, and made Lincoln president. And then all of a sudden, Albert Pike comes along and they try to murder Lincoln and Joseph Smith, and they killed them both. So it says, I decided I would find out if the fact that Pike's mansion in Little Rock had 13 rooms had any significance. 13 figures prominently in satanic, Luciferian, and Kabbalistic ritual codes and writings. My investigations produced documentary evidence to show that because of Pike's exceptional mental ability, he came under the notice of professors in Harvard who were members of the Illuminati, who developed in his mind the idea that a one-world government, a one-world religion, and a one-world financial and economic system was the only solution to the world's many and varied problems. I next discovered that his departure from Harvard was not due to a lack of finances or because of a misunderstanding with the faculty over the tuition fees, but because of his radical ideas and teachings. When he returned home, determined that he would fight in his way to the top despite all opposition, he was in a suitable frame of mind to be recruited as a Minerval or apprentice into the lower degrees of the Illuminati. I found that those secretly directing the Luciferian conspiracy in America decided to use Pike's mental capacity, his qualities as a teacher, and his ability to master languages to further their own secret plans. They tested his physical courage and resourcefulness by sending him among the Indians to earn his living by use of his brains while learning their language and customs. Remember, guys, Joseph Smith was running for president and was apparently about to win the presidency of the United States. Now, just before he died, right? And we find out that Abraham Jonas, a Ashkenazi Jew that was still running the Masonic groups, therefore all the presidents, he was the kingmaker, he made Abraham Lincoln, he made Joseph Smith, and in, I think it's 2 or maybe it was 3 days, I think it was 2 days, he was initiated initially into the Masonic order. 2, maybe 3 days later, he was given the highest degree in Masonry. But remember, that was because they knew that he was ordained from above. They were just doing it officially. And at that point, there were no 33 degrees. It was just the 3 degrees that the Apostle Paul talks about. And Josephus and Philo and these guys talk about how Essenes would have 3 years of apprenticeship. The first 2 years, you had to give everything you owned to them, but you could get it back after 2 years. The last year, you couldn't have your stuff back at all because you were permanent. You had to make up your mind. And then you finally got to the 3rd degree, as the Apostle Paul says, in the body or out of the body, he could not say, but he heard words that were unspeakable or unlawful for him to speak. And this is the grand secret that you have to receive by initiation. So it was always 3 degrees. It was the ancient mystery schools. And Benjamin Franklin was from, the Grand Master of France. This is the original Knights of St. John, the true initiation of the real mysteries by the Rex Sacrorum, Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, handed down through John, all the way down to Benjamin Franklin in France. Then it was transferred to America. And from there, it was transferred to Abraham Jonas, the master mason. And then they gave it to Joseph Smith, who became a master mason in 2 days. And he was to build the New Jerusalem. These were all Huguenots. They were coming over. They were of the Knights of St. John, the true Masons, the Templars. But all of that was infiltrated by the Illuminati in 1776 when they created it in Bavaria. And that spy that came in, remember, Aleister Crowley was one of these spies, his agents. But before him, it was this Albert Pike who came in and revamped Masonry, infiltrated it, widened it, made it 33 degrees so that everybody could be brought under the umbrella. And it would be changed, and therefore it would be a worldwide initiation. So they went to Hollywood and made the theater, which is what the Masonic Hall is. It's a stage with a curtain, theater, vaudeville, Jewish individuals that were teaching evil, wicked, satanic propaganda to initiate you into the satanic religion. And they completely put the kibosh to Joseph Smith, who had the true rituals that went back to Mary Magdalene. Because it was 1843 or 1842. And by the way, it was right on the winter solstice that he was born, December 23rd. It was just a few hours, give or take, on the winter solstice that he was born. Which, these things can't be coincidence. Like Charles Taze Russell dies Halloween night in a graveyard in a Roman toga. I think that sounds a little fishy to me. But yeah, I don't know about the winter solstice for the birth of Joseph Smith, but there certainly does seem to be some aspect there of, shall we say, destiny. And then he set up the temple, not in Nauvoo, but this is where he was in Ohio. And he gave them the endowments, and these were really true individuals who were really there to create the New Jerusalem and establish Zion. Of course, there was a great apostasy, and he was martyred. But even though that Mormons don't ever tell you this, they want you to just think it was just some independent thing going on in the United States, had nothing to do with anything. But Joseph Smith was initiated and anointed by the same man that initiated and was basically made the president of the United States, Lincoln. This was a effort by the original Knights of St. John, which, like I said, by the way, there was one of the first presidents of the Continental Constitution was Sinclair, which is a direct descendant of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. The entire thing was done on purpose. The Constitution was given to us by the liberty and justice for all, which is from Mary Magdalene and that Statue of Liberty. And it was all done by the guidance and foreknowledge of the true lineage and descent of this priesthood and these ceremonies that would one day establish a New Jerusalem, which is what they were trying to do. This country was found and was supposed to be where the New Jerusalem would be built. Joseph Smith kept saying it would be in the Rocky Mountains. He was going west. Far West Missouri was not in the state of Missouri, but in the territory of Missouri. And Far West Missouri is all the way to the Rocky Mountains. And he pinpointed on a map where it would be, on the New Mexico-Arizona border in the southern states, in the Rocky Mountains. And that's a fact. That's what actually happened here. And it's not just some coincidence. He prophesied of his martyrdom, exactly. He prophesied everything was going to happen with the Civil War all the way down to our day. And he prophesied that Brigham Young would lead them to hell, into the Rocky Mountains, and they would become a mighty people, be corrupt and full of wickedness, and lose the priesthood. And that in the latter days, a group of individuals here in the Rocky Mountains would separate and would go back in humility and do the United Order, which is what Joseph Smith called it, or the having all things common in the wilderness, as a refuge during the Great Tribulation just before Christ returns. So they had to put a kibosh to that, and they had to murder President Lincoln. And as they always do, when they murder somebody that was a good person, they will end up changing everything they taught or hiding everything they were saying, or the reason why they had to kill him, like they did with Kennedy and Lincoln and Joseph Smith. And they revamped everything they taught. And so they smeared Joseph Smith and called him a polygamist, an adulterer, and tarred and feathered him and beat him and left him for dead. And finally, in the end, martyred him. So Lincoln was martyred. Joseph Smith was martyred. There were many others. And this is the great takeover. This is when they really took over the United States government. There was still some kickback all the way up to Kennedy. But they have it lock, stock, and barrel. After World War II, bam, they own this country. The protocols of Zion are going forward. And the one world government is just on the precipice of being established. And TikTok and YouTube and Facebook, this is a CIA program. The 3-Eye Atlas is a big hoax. They're going to introduce the AI financial system. This is it. I guarantee it. So you guys need to know what's really going on here. Boom, about this time, here comes this other group with Brigham Young from Albert Pike that were trying to change Masonry and bring the Masonic Illuminati that infiltrated the Masons, tried to start there in the East by infiltrating the Masons and then infiltrating Joseph Smith as they went west and created the government and the military stuff that's going on, the FBI and all that's going on, the secret government in the West. That is the Western branch of the Illuminati here in the United States. So it says that Pike came out of this test with full marks and The archives in Washington, D.C. throw some unexpected light on Pike's connections with the Indians during the Civil War. These records show that he at first commanded a regiment and afterwards a brigade of Indian troops. It also discloses the fact that Mike's Indian troops had been disbanded by order of President Jefferson Davis because of the atrocities they had committed under the excuse of conducting legitimate warfare. Investigation into Pike's associations with Harvard and while teaching private school proved he had become acquainted with men who were members of the Illuminati, men who were connected with Moses Holbrook, another Ashkenazi Jew, Clinton Roosevelt, Dana Greeley, and there is evidence to indicate that after 1840, Pike's 13-room mansion was used as the secret headquarters of those who constituted the Synagogue of Satan, and that within those walls they practiced occultism and performed satanic rituals based on the Kabbalism as used by Moses Mendelssohn when he conducted initiations into the higher degrees of Weishaupt's Illuminati in Frankfurt, Germany, prior to 1784. Further light was thrown on this phase of Pike's secret life when research revealed that after Pike gave up living in Little Rock Mansion, it was occupied by John Gould Fletcher, who also practiced spiritualism and cultism. He won the Pulitzer Prize for his poem written about Pike's mansion entitled The Ghosts of an Old House. It may be assumed that there is a great deal more truth than poetry in those verses, because evidence was later dug up which proved Pike conducted seances in St. Louis and other places throughout the world. It was next, when you drive through that along the freeway, there's that arch. So this is all being done by the Illuminati. They got big pyramids in Memphis and all the way along, and Las Vegas has got the pyramid. They're setting up these big cities, and it's all being run by the Illuminati. And Trump's got his big Trump Tower and Illuminati's. And he's part of the Illuminati too. Guarantee it. So Mazzini had been sent to America to assist Thomas Jefferson, laying the foundations for the part Weishaupt intended America should play in the semifinal stages of the conspiracy. Research into the writings of Mazzini's associates in France and Italy proved that Pike climbed the rungs of the ladder of the Illuminati as fast as he had advanced in Freemasonry. Moses Holbrook was secret head of the Synagogue of Satan in America during the first half of the 19th century. He used Kabbalistic rites as taught by Moses Mendelssohn. And by the way, guys, Joshua of the Sons of God Ministry has been reading a lot of Kabbalistic stuff, and this is where he's getting all his teachings about Jesus didn't really exist. And so he initiated specially selected candidates into Satanism, as practiced in higher degrees of Grand Orient Masonry, in France and Italy by Crémieux and Mazzini, respectively. The Kabbalah's Talmudic teachings. Satanism was substituted for the books of Moses during the time the Jews, so-called, were captive in Babylon. Because some of the founding fathers of America had been openly anti-Semitic, and because the manner in which Illuminism had been exposed as having infiltrated into American Masonry, and because those who directed the activities of the Illuminati were mostly men who called themselves Jews, even if they were not, and lied about the matter, Pike decided that he would pretend to clean Jewry out of control in America, as far as Freemasonry was concerned. We will prove later that we are justified in using the word pretend. He also decided that because the Illuminati was becoming suspect as directing the WRM, he would reorganize palladism and establish councils throughout the world to take the place of lodges of the Grand Orient and the Illuminati. In other words, Pike decided to set up a different front in order to give the Synagogue of Satan, which directs the WRM at the top, a new face. He was determined to throw historians and research workers off the scent, which stank to high heaven after Captain Morgan was murdered. Moses Mendelssohn's ritual for the higher degrees of Grand Orient Masons was known as the Black Mass. And by the way, Jehovah's Witnesses conduct a Black Mass every year on Passover. They pass around the body of the Lord Jesus and his blood, and they refuse it. It's called a Black Mass. Jehovah's Witnesses are a big part, a front that they use to get into Christianity and put pamphlets all over the world and get everybody to believe in Jehovah, go back to law. Adventism, all the same thing. Herbert Armstrong's headquarters and school that he made was next door to the Agape Lodge of the OTO, the Templi Orient, that was established by Aleister Crowley, who established also the Church of Satan, Scientology, CIA, FBI. All of this was established by the satanic order from Aleister Crowley, who was the principal one in the Illuminati at that time. But right now we're going back to Albert Pike, who wrote Morals and Dogma and started the Ku Klux Klan and was backing the Confederate armies in the Civil War and trying to destroy Lincoln and Joseph Smith, who were trying to preserve the ancient truths. So they hated Christianity. They had a Black Mass. Ceremonies expressed bitter hatred. That's why Jehovah's Witnesses have a Black Mass. They hate Jesus Christ. They tell their followers that they believe in Jesus, but it's a different Jesus because he's not divine. And they go back to the law of Moses and believe in Jehovah and carry out the Black Mass. They rarely talk about Jesus. They won't worship Jesus. They don't believe in Jesus. This is exactly what Joshua is doing. He doesn't want to believe Jesus is deity, or he's the Christ, or he's real, or he's coming again to set up his kingdom. Joshua, I think that I hit a nerve the other day, some months ago, when I was talking about whatever happened to your brother and your mother, and I don't know what kind of evil ritual was going on, but I won't say anymore. So, that it didn't appear so Talmudic, Holbrook agreed and worked with Pike on a new ritual. Holbrook died before the task was completed, and Pike completed the work alone. He called the new ceremonial the Adonicide Mass, which means the death of deity. It was on Pike's doctrine that Nietzsche in Germany based his ideas and theories calculated to bring about the death of deity. So Lucifer can reign in peace and security. We know these theories as Nietzscheism. We referred to the writings of Domenico Margiotta on many occasions when dealing with the manner in Illuminati infiltrated into Freemasonry, because Margiotta was a 33rd degree Mason before he succeeded. He did not quit Masonry until after he had been selected for initiation into the higher degrees of the Grand Orient Masonry. Yeah, OTO, Orient, Grand Orient Masonry. This is Illuminati. And or the new and reformed Palladian Rite. He gives as his reason for refusing to be initiated that the study of the lives of those who wished to initiate him convinced him they were Satanists. We have Margiotta's word for it that Grand Master Pike reestablished the supremacy of the Supreme Council and succeeded gradually in becoming an important Masonic personage and the real chief of the Scottish Rite. As a 33rd degree Mason and sovereign pontiff of the Universal Masonry, by the way, they call the Pope a pontiff. When did they start doing that? When these German Bavarian Khazars went down and took over the Catholic Church, and then they all of a sudden, voila, had pontiffs. This is part of the Masonic rituals. It's nothing to do with Christianity. Pike traveled the world. Masonic libraries reveal he was honorary Grand Commander of the Supreme Council of Brazil, United Egypt, Tunis, France, Belgium, Italy, Spain, England, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, Greece, Hungary, Nueve Grande, Canada, Colon, Peru, Mexico, Uruguay, and Oceania. But what the Masonic libraries do not reveal is the fact that while pretending to be traveling on business concerning the Scottish Rite, Pike was actually establishing 26 councils of the new and reformed Palladian Rite, which he superimposed on the Grand Orient Masonry. Grand Orient Masons worship Satan as prince of this world, and Satan is their deity. Palladianism recognized Satan as prince of this world, but according to the Luciferian doctrine as expounded by Pike, Lucifer is deity, the equal of Adonai, and rules over all that part of the universe not included in Adonai's part, which we term heaven. Pike stated that Satanism is to be tolerated among imperfect members. Imperfect members are all members of the Grand Orient lodges and councils of the new and reformed Palladian Rite who haven't been initiated into the final degree and made acquainted with the full secret. The full secret that they worship Satan. Perfect members are exceedingly few in number, but Pike insisted that those selected for initiation into the full secret accept Lucifer as their deity and worship him as the god of goodness and the deity of light from whom all knowledge and intelligence originates. Pike himself and the ritual of the Adonicide Mass specifically condemn Lucifer's opponent as Adonai, the deity of all evil, and the deity of darkness. But down here I wanted to read this. The truth about the protocols is as follows. The protocols of Zion. There is evidence to indicate that the lectures were being delivered to the Grand Orient Masons and members of the Pike Palladian Rite. Palladian. Is that the same as that Peter Thiel? What's he? Some other word similar to that. I wonder if that word's related. All over the world from 1885 onwards, when first published in Russia in 1902, they were said to be minutes of a meeting held by the elders of Zion. That was so obviously a lie to anyone who took the trouble to read the material carefully. Nillis covered up this by saying, the material is a report within parts apparently missing, made by some powerful person. My friend says, and I agree, that the series of lectures were inspired or written by Pike. The wording and phraseology are almost, if not absolutely identical with his other writings. They were delivered over a period of 3 or more days and nights. The first of the series explains Wessopp's revision and modernization of the protocols of the Luciferian conspiracy. The second of the series describes the progress which the conspiracy had made since 1776. The third and final series of the lectures tell what remains to be done and how Pike intended it should be accomplished to reach the final goal of the one world government during the 20th century. But anyway, I could just read the whole thing, but we're over an hour now. I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, guys. I hope that those of you who got through this entire video and got down to the last part here, I hope you understand literally now what's going on. So then the next question is, what do we do? Well, there's only one thing to do. This is all prophesied. We know this is going to happen. Just get to that place where you can recognize that this is real. And then pray, seek the Lord, and we'll be doing more videos to talk about various aspects of what Christians are supposed to do. And one of this, and I'll just say this, and you all know I keep saying this every time. Here's probably the most important thing you've got to understand. We're in a world now run by Satan. He is the deity of this world. And if you want to know who that is, well, look at the court system. We're under the law of Moses. And soon you will have to agree to keep all the laws of Moses or the laws of the government and do whatever they tell you, the Abrahamic covenant and so forth, what they're doing, in order to buy and sell. We've got to now get out of the world, get out of Babylon. We don't want to share with her in her sins and partake of her plagues because they're coming. And that's why a lot of Christians are running around saying, oh, we're not appointed into the wrath and there's no condemnation, those who walk after Christ. There's only one problem. If you walk after Christ, you'll do what he said and get out of the world and get out now. And that doesn't mean that you just, in the world with one foot and out of the world with another foot. It doesn't mean you go to some church and get indoctrinated by this World Council of Churches. It means you get out of the world. And that world's a society itself. It's all run by the devil, and you got to get out. Or else you'll partake of her sins and her plagues, which are coming in the Great Tribulation, and it's about to break forth as we speak. So, Lord loves you all. He loves every single person on the earth, and he's got a plan. But if you want to escape the things that are coming, you literally got to read your scriptures and pray and seek the Lord, get out of the world. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. The Lord loves you, and his grace and his peace will be with you. Have a good one.